What's going on, everyone? So this next year, 2 years, maybe even a year and a half is going to be very interesting with Giannis and what's going to happen. Is he finally going to demand a trade request? Is he just going to end up signing that extension at some point? Does Milwaukee get nervous and scared and think oh, well, we might lose him for nothing and make him available via trades? I'm sure Milwaukee and Giannis would sit down and have a conversation and kind of figure out where each other are at. But Giannis has expressed some very interesting things as of late, right? Basically talking about how he doesn't want to be in Milwaukee and for 20 years and only win one NBA championship, right? And that he's not going to sign an extension until Milwaukee shows him that they're putting together a championship level team. And this was a concern that I talked about going into this offseason. I said if Milwaukee ends up going and signing and bringing everybody back, it can make things very difficult for Giannis because he's going to be looking at it as we're old, we're only getting older. Drew Holiday, he's talking about, potentially retiring after this series. Is Chris Middleton really going to be the second best player Giannis ever plays with while all these other teams, like the Suns, are getting Kevin Durant and going and getting Bradley Beal and doing all these moves and stuff for bags of peanuts, while Milwaukee's like, hey, let's re-sign Brook Lopez for several more years and let's re-sign Chris Middleton to another max and basically lock up this team for the next several seasons that has won one NBA championship and outside of that has been kind of disappointing, right? Like last year, it's very possible that Milwaukee could have won the championship had Giannis not got hurt, right? And I do expect them to still be in the conversation this year. I think they'll be up there as one of, if not the best teams in the league again. This team is good enough because of Giannis, right? And it still is very questionable. And I'm sure Giannis is looking at all of these other teams getting better. I mean, even the Lakers are out here going and making some trades, making some moves. They get to the Western Conference Finals and end up going and adding all this depth and all this youth and all this size and all this athleticism. And Giannis has got to be standing around going dude, I'm only getting older, right? Brook Lopez, he's been great for us, but he's only getting older. At what point do we get younger? At what point do we kind of retool this roster rather than just pumping out the same old, right? And that's something that I talked about going into this season, and Giannis seems to agree with me. And one of the teams that I think makes a lot of sense for Giannis, if he were to demand a trade, one, they could probably put together the best trade package for Giannis. And two, I actually think would make a lot of sense for him and be a lot of fun to watch. And that is the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think Giannis and SGA would just be dynamic, right? I mean, you're talking about one of, if not the best duos in the league at that point, with, SGA and Giannis. The package that they could put together, they could easily just put a package around Chet Holmgren, and they have a treasure trove of draft picks. On top of a treasure trove of draft picks, they have a bunch of young talent, right? They could basically tell you hey, take whoever you want outside of SGA, right? That's the only thing that is untouchable is SGA. Outside of that, our entire roster is up for grabs if you want it. That's what I think Oklahoma City should do. Now, if you could keep a Josh Giddey, I think that'd be nice. But my guess is for Giannis. I mean, you're talking about probably the biggest return in NBA history. So you're probably looking at something like Giddey, Chet Holmgren, one or both of the Williams, something like that. I think that would probably be where they start. And then from there, it would just be 6 first-round picks or something like that. But that would give the Milwaukee Bucks a nice, solid core, right, to kind of build for the future and a bunch of draft picks and assets and stuff like that. So they could be in a pretty good position. And if you're Oklahoma, you don't care. You have SGA and Giannis. What more do you need? At that point, you're just filling out the roster and trying to add as much depth as you can. You're trying to get some shooting and some defense, right? You're just basically looking for a bunch of 3-and-D guys, try to get some size, and then also go get some depth for this roster. And if you could do that, you're probably winning a championship, right? I mean, SGA has been he's really evolving and blossoming and looking like he could be one of the next big things, right? And if that continues to grow and that continues to develop, I mean, you can make an argument, and in my opinion, I think it would be. I don't really necessarily think there is an argument, but I could see some people maybe making the argument. I think SGA would be the best player that Giannis has ever played with. Like, just talent-wise, continued upside, youth, all of those factors, I think would be massive. Right? You're talking about a guy that was 31, 5-5 last year and shot 51% from the field. He's 6'6" in height. He's got a 6'1" or 6'11" wingspan, so he's got good size, good length, he's good defense. He's 25 years old. By the time that Giannis could end up getting traded to the Thunder, he'd be 27. Like, I think that would just be massive, massive for Giannis, right? You'd be on a team that has youth, that has talent. Even if you end up trading all of that away, who cares? You know, you have you and SGA, and again, you're just putting the pieces together. You're just filling in the blanks, right? Like, and you're good. And who knows how good SGA will be 2 years from now, right? Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he ends up picking it up even more and is even better, right? Like, I would love to see that. Having like one of, if not the best big little duos in the league, right? Having that guard in that center, like, the Thunder would be set. And I just think SGA would be a huge draw for Giannis, right? There's no way Giannis would be looking at that and going like, nah, I'd rather not, right? Like, one, he's comfortable in a small market, right? He could be happy. He could be there, right? Like, I don't think it's not going to impact him much differently. Like, he would be embraced. He'd be loved. If he wins a championship for the Thunder, like, boom, now you're putting him in conversations. Like, he won a championship for Milwaukee, and he won, the Thunder's first championship, and all, like, the conversation for him, all of that would just be massive, massive. You'd have your sidekick, your duo, that also in your later years is still young enough to weather that, to where, if he does, like, if Giannis starts having that, like, decline, as long as it's not like some steep, drastic decline, but if he starts having a little bit of a decline, say he gets the Thunder 3 years later, you start seeing that decline just because of the age, because at that point, you're talking 5 years from now, so Giannis would be like 33, 34 at that point, right? Somewhere in that ballpark, right? So you're talking about, if he starts having that decline, you have a guy that can step in and be that number one guy for you in SGA. For the Thunder, it probably ensures you never lose SGA. You're a contending team. You'd have Giannis and SGA. That would be an attractive pairing for some of these players, some of these veterans, things like that. I mean, we've seen Milwaukee get several of those guys, right? Like, so, and the Thunder, what's crazy too is, realistically, the Thunder could make a trade for Giannis and would still have enough assets to go and get other pieces. I'm not saying necessarily they'd have to go get another star, because I don't think you'd need it. But, like, kind of like how Milwaukee, you had Middleton, you had Giannis, and then they went and traded for, like, Drew Holiday, and that was the thing that put them over the top, right? Like, the Thunder could easily do something like that, where it's like, okay, get SGA, we have Giannis, maybe go make a trade for, like, Alex Caruso or something like that, right? To where you have SGA and Caruso as your backcourt, right? A 3-and-D style guy that's got good size, that can do several things. Again, not talking about stars, just solid, blue chip level role players. Maybe go get a center, because at that point you probably, like I said, you probably lose Chet and Williams and all that stuff. So now you're looking for a center to pair with Giannis. So maybe you go find that person, whoever that is, right? I think it would put the Thunder in just excellent shape. The biggest concern, of course, would be, the big markets. Because it, like, as great as it would be for him to go to, like, a Thunder and just see how great they play, right? Like, there's still, like, well, if he goes to the Lakers, his brand would never be bigger. He'd immediately become a billionaire. He'd have Anthony Davis, which, again, is the best player he's ever played with, right? Like, they have enough to go and trade for Giannis and still maintain depth and talent and stuff like that. And it's LA, so the market is very attractive, right? So you're always going to get guys to come in. You're also going to get young guys to come in. Lakers have been excellent in the draft, right? So you're looking at it as like, go to Lakers is a win-win from a business standpoint as well as just a winning and career standpoint. Then you look at like the Knicks, and it's like, man, like the Knicks they're one of the teams that could outbid pretty much everybody but OKC. They have a treasure trove of draft picks. They have a bunch of young talent, right? Knicks could do the same thing and just say basically everybody but Jalen Brunson is yours, right? And then, Giannis would have Jalen Brunson, him, and then they could piece together the rest of the roster. If they could keep Mitchell Robinson, I think that'd be great because you could have Robinson and Giannis as like your bigs. I don't know how well the pairing would work, but at least you have a center that can block shots. Like defensively, that'd be great, right? But like also on top of that, it's like you'll win a championship with the Knicks. I mean, you're forever cemented at that point. You be the guy, the star, because that's always kind of been the thing. It's like, who's going to be that star that does go to the Knicks, that takes the chance on the Knicks and says, like, I want to be the player that brings them their first championship since, like, what, the 70s? So, I look at it and I go, that big market allure is very massive. But if it's one of those things where he doesn't care if it's a big market or little market, he just wants to win, like solely wants to win, then honestly, I think the Lakers are still in that conversation because him and AD would just be terrifying, right? Like, good luck. I mean, you're talking about literally the two best defensive players in the entire league, and they would work perfectly as a pairing because Anthony Davis's ability to stretch the floor, right? So there's that argument. But outside of that, I really do think it's Oklahoma. Like, I think OKC with him and SGA would just be polarizing. It would just be so much fun to watch. But time will tell. Anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? You want to see Giannis in OKC? Do you think that would be fun? I have a feel what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments.